And Kieran, for you, it's trials week. And the one thing you know about being a jockey to John and Thady Gosden is that this is trials week. It's not the real thing. Does that reassure you somewhat?
For sure. And I think naturally for a jockey, we're obviously fierce competitors, so you want to go out there and win every race. But what John and Thady have just instilled in me, that's the bigger picture. You know, John was telling me the other morning when I was riding out that 2 years ago, over the 5 days, the 3 days in Newmarket and the 2 days in Newbury, I think they had 12 winners. Last year they were 1 from 19, a filly won called Covey. Solstice finished last and the Fred Darling went on and won the Oaks. So it's not the be all or end all. There's the bigger picture, and they've got to sustain and, progress throughout the year. So it's reassuring.
But you are now fully in situ as first jockey at Clarehaven, and you effectively had this sort of hanging over you for quite a bit of last season, uncertainty about what Frankie Dettori was going to do, and everyone seemed to know that you had the job, but it didn't go public for a long time. How did you sort of keep yourself together through that period?
Oh, it was fine. So I was riding out in John and Thady's for maybe since Royal Ascot time. Obviously, I was still associated with Charlie Hills. I suppose it got a little bit messy because there was rumours flying around everywhere, and Charlie Hills probably wasn't, he was kept in the dark a little bit, so possibly wasn't. It was difficult for him, but so I was a little bit in limbo. But
and you couldn't say too much to too many people. I guess that's the other thing.
No, absolutely. So we weren't 100% sure what Frankie was doing at the same time, but I just had to sit tight. And last year was a little bit difficult, but hopefully we can reap the rewards this year.
And of course, you want to know that there's the job there waiting for you, or a job of some sort waiting for you, because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, but you're putting quite a lot of eggs in a very important basket, and you don't want to kind of cut all your ties everywhere.
Of course, but hopefully I can just settle into the job now, and I look forward to it. So
your association with the Gosdens actually goes back quite a long way, doesn't it? That's what I hadn't really realised prior to last year.
Yeah, so when I was 15, in my summer holidays at school, my last year at school, I went out for a week's holiday, and it was fantastic. I mean, it didn't end great because I was there for 3 days. I was there Monday, Tuesday, rode out, and then on the Wednesday rode a bit of work. And I was really inexperienced.
So you're 15 at this point?
15, yeah. I did not,
Did they know how old? Did they know how old you were?
They did, but I didn't. I really did not have much experience riding racehorses. But I rode a piece of work. I think I did a solo piece on the Albahatri, and then on the Thursday I was staying with my uncle, who lives in Ely, 20 minutes away from Newmarket.
This is Peter?
Peter, yes. Yeah. And he has a few horses back at his home. And there was a Shetland pony. So he has younger children. And he had this Shetland pony that was misbehaving. So his wife, Sarah, asked me to get up on it one evening. And it bucked me off and I broke my collarbone. So that cut my week's experience at Clarehaven short.
So you've probably been riding Ravens Pass, a piece of work one day, and then get bucked off a Shetland pony the next day.
Well, it was far from ideal, but yeah. So I've known John for a long time, and I've always had the odd ride for him throughout my career. He was very supportive when I was going for the Champion Apprentice title. He threw me a few winners, and I'm forever grateful for that. But yeah, so there's always been a bit of an association there.
How long is it now since that apprentice race?
Oh, God.
It feels like yesterday.
I'd imagine.
It's probably not.
It was probably 6, 7 years ago, 6 years ago in a way. Yeah.
And a lot of ups and downs in the interim. You seem now to be pretty centred and pretty happy with life.
Yeah, my life's changed drastically, really, for the better, obviously. But, I'm fully committed and concentrated on my career. I'm very happy in myself. I've got great people around me. I've always had great people around me. And, I had my ups and downs, and I don't regret anything. I think it's made me the person I am today, and I look forward just to what the future has ahead of me, really.
You say that you don't regret anything. Is that sort of part of your personality anyway? You're not someone who's a big one for looking back?
Yes, but I think the way in which the experience I had with, you know, struggling with addiction, I think to remain sober, and you've got to reflect at the same time, because you've got to remind yourself what life was like back then. So, but I'm very much one to look forward, and, you know, it was a difficult time in my life. It was a difficult time in my family's life and people closest to me, but yeah, it's made me a stronger person for sure.
And as far as I can tell, it's made you the sort of person that a lot of young people who are struggling in similar areas would want to come and talk to.
Oh, for sure.
Do you get that a lot?
Yes, I get it.
It doesn't surprise me.
No, I get that a lot. A lot of people make contact, and I always admire people that reach out and talk to me, because when I was going through these things, through this addiction, that was probably the hardest thing, to speak to people, because I always felt like I was bothering someone. Like, this was my problem, I'll deal with it. Although I wasn't dealing with it properly, I always find that was the hardest thing, to try and talk to someone. So I admire, if someone can reach out and talk to me, that is the biggest step. Like, that's almost them accepting they've got a problem. And you won't overcome this until you accept you've got a problem.
Mm. And did you have quite a lot of, you say you've always had good people around you. Who were the people that really put you on the right path, or at least helped you help yourself, which of course is what you've always got to do?
Yeah, so obviously my family. I was talking to my mum not too long ago about this, and she said she thinks she delayed me getting sober or getting better probably a year by trying to intervene too much. And I think she's probably unfair in saying that. It's definitely something that you need to realise yourself. Like, when I was going through all this, I probably went to between 70 and 100 AA meetings before I actually got sober. Like, I went to rehab for 28 days, and I needed that foundation. I need to be fully immersed in living with like-minded people for 24/7, you know, for 28 days. I needed that foundation. Just going to AA, and I was going to meetings, and I was going for other people, to keep people off my back. And I was going to meetings and sitting at the back of the room and sitting there as quiet as a church mouse, not really engaging at all.
So you're paying lip service to the process, but you're not really helping yourself until you completely cut everything else out and focus on that.
No, completely. You have to accept it. You can't get better until you realise yourself. I remember I find it so easy now to reflect and think, how was I so naive? Obviously, when you're immersed and you're twisted and you're turned and you're going through all this, your brain's like a washing machine. You're not thinking clearly. But looking back now, and, you know, just looking at my CV, my drinking caused problems. Surely that's a drinking problem. You know, I lost driving licenses, I lost friendships, relationships. Everything close to me was falling away from me. And then it wasn't until that night at Kempton, when I tested positive, that I remember getting back into my car. So I was stood down immediately and getting back into my car in the car park at Kempton, and just sitting into my driver's seat and feeling the weight just come off my shoulders.
So you were relieved you'd been caught?
Relief, pure relief, the weight off my shoulders. And that was the day I knew I could concentrate on my recovery. I didn't have the pressures of riding. I think that happened on the Wednesday. I was in rehab by the Tuesday, and a big thank you to the PGA and Paul Struthers. Paul Struthers sorted everything, you know. So I was in rehab by the Tuesday, and that was the first day really I could sort of begin my new life.
And it's interesting when you say you look back at my CV and this, but of course, actually, if you look back on your CV and you strip that out and no one were to know about it, it would look like quite a normal arc of a jockey who's pretty successful, then has to dig a bit deeper for a bit, and then the curve goes up again. Yeah, it wouldn't look completely abnormal. it's very interesting that you see that period and what could have happened in that period, but you were to a greater or lesser extent functioning to the outside world. You were okay? Sure,
I was functioning. I had a bit of luck, really. I went to Roger Charlton's as a 3-pound claimer. And I'd just come back from Australia, doing a stint in Australia. I went straight to Roger Charlton's. And George Baker was riding his first jockey at Beckhampton, and William Twiston-Davies was second jockey to George. And I suppose, obviously, George had his career-ending fall. Then Willie Twiston-Davies, maybe a couple of months later, retired from being a flat jockey. So I kind of slotted into a position by default, really, where I was riding a lot of these nice horses. I'd only been there a couple of months, and, you know, Roger was having stacks of winners. And, I mean, honestly, I would probably say Roger Charlton has been the biggest influence on my career to date. Not just professionally, but he was extremely patient with me.
Go on, just...
Oh, you know, obviously when I tested positive, and I had a few people come up to me and say, when Jason, I was in rehab, I remember seeing it on the Racing Post on my phone that Jason Watson had just got the job at Roger Charlton's, and I got a few messages saying I thought that was a little bit unfair, and people don't realise Roger Charlton, you know, I didn't just have the one chance. He gave me 20, 30, 40 chances. You know, he was extremely patient, and he helped me a lot, like I said, professionally and personally.
Were you difficult, though, with it? Were you difficult to deal with?
Oh, no,
even through your addiction problems? Or was it just the fact that it was stopping you function at where you should have been?
No, I don't think I was difficult at all. There were, I mean, I certainly wasn't the person I am today, but I was doing more harm to myself.
But clearly you were the sort of person that people would want to help.
I suppose so, and I hope so, because I've never, you know, I'm not a controversial person. I dislike confrontation. I'm, you know, a relatively quiet, keep myself to myself type person, and I hope that's a likeable trait, and I think people see that in me. And I was offered a lot of help by, you know, like I said, I've always had great people around me, and no one gave up on me, and especially my family in a way.
So if, as you come over, you are much more centred now and feel a sort of greater level of sort of social self-confidence, does that then communicate to what you're doing on the saddle and around the yard and on a day-to-day basis? Do you sort of feel more composed and comfortable and ready for this big opportunity?
Yeah, completely. My head is completely in the job. Like, I know the responsibility I have. I enjoy going racing. I enjoy riding good horses, as every jockey does. It's a different world I'm living in right now, and I'm completely aware of the magnitude of this opportunity I've been given, and it's an opportunity I'm certainly going to grab with both hands.
And where is your outlet now? Where is your release? Where is your fun, dare I say it?
Yeah, I'm not, you know, I'm not a particularly outgoing person. I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night, and she said, what if Nick asks you about what are your hobbies? And I was like, God, honestly, I don't have many hobbies. I said, I'm a bit of a foodie, and, you know, I like going out for nice food and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm a bit of a phase man too. I still have those addictive personality traits and obsessive behaviours, but I just try now to channel it in the right way. And, you know, they're relatively healthy, you know, obsessive behaviours, but I just have to try and channel it in the right way.
It's interesting you talking about this. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to Rishi about this, because he and I were talking on my show last week. We were talking about the gambling review and the stake size limits, and talking about sort of transplanting addiction and the fact that you can tell somebody not to do something over and over and over again, or try and impose limits on their behaviour, but there will be something inherent in them that you need to get to, rather than actually trying to paper over the cracks. And I think that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, you've got to realise yourself. That's the most important thing. You're not going to overcome this thing doing it for other people. So when you can realise yourself and accept it, that's the first step, and that first step then can lead on to the next.
Are you quite a foodie then?
Yeah, big foodie. Today, Sunday, day off, no racing. I'll be on my phone.
No one who describes himself as a foodie is going to tuck into the player there.
No, that's what I like to do on my day off. Myself and my girlfriend Sophie will be looking for nice places to eat and go out, and that's kind of how I spend my days off. And
also, because Sophie is in the business, she understands the way that you kind of have to be as an athlete. For sure.
Sophie and I, we're a little bit like ships in the night at the moment. I'm spending a lot of time in Newmarket. I live in Chiltern Foliot in Wiltshire, but I spend a lot of time in Newmarket now, so we really don't see much of each other. So I think it's very important, on the rare days off. Obviously, there's going to be very few of those now as we get into the height of the summer. But today, after doing your show, Nick, I will be going back and spending some time with my girlfriend.
Quite right, Sophie. I apologise that we've taken up Kieran Sunday morning. He's a pretty impressive guy, Dom, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And my son Ben had similar problems, and he was very helpful to him. He appreciated it at no end, and as you say, you do replace those addictions with other things. My son loves his food as well. Nothing better than cooking, going out to eat, and everything else. Yeah.
And how's Ben doing now?
Great. Yeah, he's out in America. Not so great for his parents, because we were watching 6 races from Middleburg last night, and he hit the deck in 2 of them. Having hit the deck the week before as well.
It's not a very forgiving surface there either, is it?
It's very fast ground, and falls hurt out there, yeah.
But in himself, he's doing well, thanks to Kieran and others.
Yeah, definitely. And Sporting Chance, PJA, all fantastically helpful.